Listen, it's been an extraordinary week, has it not? Largely dominated by events that are long gone. Let's try COVID-19, for example, or events over which New Zealand and we, none of us have any control. Let's just try Gaza. But perhaps symptomatic of our discussion as a country, or in our division anyhow, because there appears no middle ground, no centre consensus on either the COVID-19 inquiry and the refusal of former or current Labour leaders to publicly appear, or the blasted land that is the Gaza Strip. 2 million people held hostage by both their overlords Hamas and their invaders, the Israeli Defence Force. You're not going anywhere in a hurry, and you can't exactly go say, I'm going to get out of here, please. But it's really interesting. I mean, that's been the focus of this week in New Zealand for reasons, something that's gone past 3 years or something we can have absolutely no influence over at all. There are other humanitarian crises in the world, just in case you were wondering. And one of the ones that's been ongoing and frankly been more destructive is in the Sahel region in Africa, where more than 33 million people, not 33 million people, have been in crisis over the past 5 years, and no one seems to give a damn. War, cholera, COVID, disease, starvation. The countries that I'm about to read out, I would think that most New Zealanders would struggle to put on a map. They go, it's somewhere in Africa, isn't it? Burkina Faso, North Cameroon, Chad, Mali, Niger, northeast Nigeria, that's where the Sahel region is. And if most people could find that on a map, frankly, you'd give them a chocolate fish. In fact, why the world ignores the ongoing humanitarian crises of Africa in this year, let alone this century, is a classic example of the left liberal hypocrisy and hysteria. So let's go on. So, I understand Gaza's fashionable, but there are other people over there, like over 10 times the number, closer probably to 15 times the number, who've been in crisis for the last 5 years. I don't see any marches for them. I don't see anybody deciding that they've got to send some humanitarian aid. I don't see Greta Thunberg getting anywhere on anything. Maybe it's too far inland for her. She can't use a boat or something. But anyhow, nobody gives a rat's razoo about all those dying, starving, killed, raped South Africans in the Sahel region. But oh dear Lord, Gaza. This is perhaps best exemplified, can I just say, this week by the bratish, and I think that's the only word to describe, isn't it? The bratish and immature behaviour of Greens co-leader Chloe Swarbrick, who has, as we all know now, ADD, ADHD, but is so obviously off her Ritalin this week that it's time she got almost forcibly detained and made to take it on a 4-hourly basis. She most reminds me, I have to say, of a 2-year-old toddler in the Woolworths supermarket aisle, whose mother's just walked past the toys section and didn't stop to buy her anything. It's meltdown in aisle 4. That's where Chloe Swarbrick's been this week, and she's just been in perpetual and continual meltdown. She'd like to be New Zealand's Greta Thunberg, I suppose, except, well, at least everyone knows Thunberg. And outside of the Wellington dress circle, I don't think that people have any understanding of cranky Chloe as any more than that 2-year-old toddler in aisle 4. Do you think? There have been, of course, other issues this week. There was the racist reading primer that we discussed with Professor Rata yesterday. An ungodly Radio New Zealand-induced cultural fuss over a picture reading book, for God's sake, which did at least lead us this week to be able to discuss and uncover more, and Te Whāriki, the early childhood curriculum as well, of this critical theory sabotage, this Marxist attempt to use anything Māori to undermine the capitalist society in which we all live in and we used to have fairly shared values. And then, of course, there was the police shooting in Christchurch, which was shocking, of course, but the response of Police Minister Mark Mitchell this morning has been that our police, quote-unquote, are world-class with world-class training. Now, I don't know how he works that out. I'm not being nasty here. I'm just saying, do we know that the New Zealand police are world-class, are they? Is there a test? It's not like the PISA test, is it, where you all just sit down and you're given a few situations and we run you through it and say, oh, well, that was a world-class. That's world-class. That's substandard. I don't know. Mind you, I guess if you run at the police brandishing a knife, there's always going to be consequences, and there you go. There are. Yes, there'll be an independent police commission of investigation. I have to say, I've never been a fan of the IPCA, just quietly. I think the police investigating the police is ridiculous. And if you are going to set up some sort of independent authority to determine whether or not police actions are right, wrong, or indifferent, for God's sake, make it independent with a truly different and investigative force. But there you go. And then, of course, there's been Radio New Zealand's scathing independent review that has been also launched in the last 48 hours as to the state broadcaster's culture, its ratings, its personalities, and its ambition. You won't have read much about this, and certainly Radio New Zealand aren't covering it. But it wouldn't be, it would be funny if it wasn't so bloody expensive, is the answer. Radio New Zealand absorbed something like about $66 million. $66 million. Just to put that into some sort of context, that's more than the aid that we provide to Ukraine and Gaza since both conflicts started. There you go. All right, see, there you go. But we provide that yearly to Radio New Zealand, which you might well argue is in the same sort of problem. I know, I'm being picturesque in my description. But nonetheless, there's been a scathing independent review in the last 48 hours that shows that, well, frankly, most people don't like working there, don't believe in live radio anyhow, and that they should be sacking many of their on-air personalities and replacing them with whom? The other interesting thing was that they said, listen, concentrate on a particular age group, and this was fascinating. Their argument was that Radio New Zealand needs to concentrate on the 50-plus age group, which is sort of fair enough because we are, I guess, our generation, the sort of people that might be drawn to no music or no, rock, pop music, all that crap rap, no house music or whatever, a no music station that has news as its centre and supposedly erudite, intelligent and insightful conversation. Well, yes, I know. Fair chance. But that was really interesting that Radio New Zealand probably has also tried to maximise its appeal to young people who aren't going to listen anyhow, thanks very much, don't want to, and have already made their choices and probably don't listen to live radio either, which is fair enough. But over 50s do. And the really interesting thing about the Radio New Zealand report was that the staff of Radio New Zealand actually don't believe in their own product. It's fascinating. But then what can you expect when at the end of the day, its board has been appointed by Willie Jackson, the majority of them are by Willie Jackson. They clearly have critical theory and they're uppermost in their mind, I wouldn't mind thinking. And they've done an outstanding job, can I just say, if you are a critical theorist and you believe that way, of actually destroying the institution and its credibility. It now rates, and this is extraordinary, Radio New Zealand News and Radio New Zealand full stop, now rates as the eighth most listened radio station in New Zealand. And yet they have no advertisements. They have $66 million worth of government injection every year, taxpayer funded. And they can pick and choose, and probably their hosts earn, well, they would earn, and their senior executive personnel much better than the private sector because, well, they don't have to compete against anybody to start with. And they don't have to worry if advertising is falling off a cliff or they're on a cost of living crisis like all other radio stations. Nope. They are immune from all of that. And then the other story that just grabbed my interest a bit this week, and again, you've seen very little news media coverage of it, but it's there, is the espionage trial. Did you catch up with this one, Josh? Of a New Zealand soldier, which apparently and theoretically involves, well, you would think, a foreign country. A Linton-based army employee, a soldier, we are told, is currently under trial for espionage.
Yeah, I just saw that this morning, yeah.
Now, I'm thinking to myself, Josh, just quietly, well, because is it really espionage, which suggests that there's a foreign player involved? And I'm struggling to see what possibly, Josh, the New Zealand Army would know that, well, frankly, a foreign power would be interested in. I mean, I suppose we are a member of the Five Nations, or was it the Five Eyes spy scheme? But that's not the army running that. That's the EIB and the SIS, most of the EIB, which is a completely different section, and quite rightly so, nothing to do with the army. But it's really interesting because there have been two, and I just wonder, there are suppression orders around this, I understand. Then I go onto Wikipedia and I see that there have been two army personnel, a Johann Wolf and a James Fairburn. See, I got this off Wikipedia, so I don't know if it's them being under the charge at the moment or these charges are just past ones. But both those gentlemen were involved in something called the far-right Dominion movement in Action Zealandia. Well, the latter that came up after the Christchurch mosque shootings. And supposedly as a white nationalist group that a couple of soldiers, Wolf and Fairburn, I think they were reservists in actual fact, had joined. They were really interesting, actually, when you go down the sort of conspiracy rabbit hole. Action Zealandia actually believe that there was a Jewish conspiracy, that COVID was a Jewish conspiracy, Josh. I like this one. It's got a lot of nice conspiracy theories all running together in this one. But Action Zealandia believe that COVID was created by a Jewish conspiracy, so it's quite important that they're Jewish, you see, to sterilize and depopulate the world. Now, interestingly, when I think about it now, when I first started off on the platform, I used to have a couple of callers who used to promote that theory. They didn't actually say it was a Jewish plot. I think it was Bill Gates' fault, but maybe he has some sort of connection. But apparently, where COVID was out to sterilize and depopulate the world. I have to say, it's done a crap job, haven't they? Usually the Jewish are very good at things, aren't they, Josh? You know, you think about it.
Yeah, they
Jewish,
are, yeah.
High IQs, you know, or
The
international
banking
IQ
sector.
tests. They're very good at doing, secret sabotage missions and things like that. They seem to be a very intelligent people and race by general. You wouldn't think they'd screw that up, would you? Because I'm pretty sure that the world population, and everywhere except Japan and South Korea, and it's because they're not having sex, it's not because they've got COVID, is in actual fact increasing. Doing a shocking job, actually. Well, there's a failed conspiracy for once. Anyhow, there you go. And the other thing about Action Zealandia, can I just say, and I didn't realise this, is that people have actually done an academic study of it. You know, when we talk about academic not being relevant, I've come across 3 academic studies of Action Zealandia, a far-right nationalist group in New Zealand, based in Christchurch, where else would it be, with about maximum 30 people, mostly young men without a girlfriend and desperate need of a blowjob. Did I say that out loud? No, I didn't. Good. And here they are, and getting together for some sort of heat-favoured imaginings about how they're going to take over New Zealand and the world and set up some sort of European enclave anywhere. And I'm going, good luck. But anyhow, they are the result of academic studies over the world. And you know what those academic studies concluded, Josh? Fascinating. That there are no threat at all. That they are no threat at all.
Shocking, that is.
Oh, really? So I'm surprised you got to that conclusion. That they're no threat at all, and that they're largely attracted to the ideological concept and the sort of heat-favoured imaginings that there might be some sort of white homeland somewhere. There are lots of white homelands, can I say, in New Zealand. Central Otago's one. Why don't they just move? Anyhow, that's been the week that has been.